Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here once again with another awesome video from Invicta. Did ancient Rome meet China? Uh, I don't think so, and I don't think so in a battle sense, just because I think they're too far apart. I believe they knew of each other. I mean, I guess travelers and whatnot probably have been to each other's, lands, but like I guess there's just too much distance to kind of like for them to conquer each other kind of thing, and there's two other enemies around for them to deal with. I'm definitely kind of curious, maybe just to find out maybe like so they met each other's cultures and maybe took what they learned from each other's cultures and brought it into their own culture kind of thing. That kind of curious to see about something like that, but I really don't know what to expect in this video. I just thought it looked cool. But anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button below, and we're jumping to this video.
A fantastic video popped up on my YouTube feed recently, which narrated an ancient Chinese historian describing the Roman Empire. The video by the channel Voices of the Past is really well made and makes you feel like you're a Chinese emperor hearing about the wonders at the edge of the world for the first time. But while I find this sort of unfiltered primary source content really insightful, it's definitely missing some historical context. What's going on right now? How much have China and Rome interacted? What do they know about each other? Is it even accurate? In my video, we'll be looking to answer these questions. Right, so let's begin by setting the stage for Roman-Chinese interactions. Here's the short and sweet of it. Were they aware of each other? Yes. Did they have direct contact? No, at least as far as we can tell. But for those looking for more details...
Yes, yeah, obviously, they're aware of each other, yes, because there's word of mouth and everything. You're going to know of each other. Did direct contact? If there was direct contact, it was just maybe I don't know, just someone, just like I said, a traveler from Rome contacting, running into people, traveling and going to China kind of thing, or vice versa. But as far as like the governments kind of thing meeting each other, I had no idea, but I guess not.
Let's now dive into the history. First and foremost, we must understand that this was a conversation carried out over really vast distances. Therefore, any exchange would have relied on intermediaries playing a super long game of telephone. The indirect relationship between Rome and China primarily took the form of land and sea trade. This sort of thing had been going on for a long, long time. The Persians, smack dab in between the two powers, made a frequent habit of facilitating east-west trade with their 1,600-mile-long royal road dating back to the 5th century BC. In addition to this route, trade would have also been conducted by way of the Persian Gulf.
And the Persians, don't want their enemies to get along, so where they can get along and crush them since they're stuck in the middle. So, like I said, a game of telephone. So if the Persians are in the middle, they're probably like, yeah, you don't want to mess with them, blah blah blah, and then probably say the same thing about whatever, you don't want to talk to them, and kind of just so they stay neutral from each other and don't join forces to kind of get together to crush the Persians and maybe grow their empires, but. Anyways.
Out into the Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean, while others, like the ancient Egyptians, would use the Red Sea to get out there. When Alexander the Great conquered the region, his armies pushed all the way into India, ushering in a new era of east-west mixing. The successor kingdoms forming in his wake further expanded upon these new connections. The Greek historian Strabo, for instance, seems to indicate that in the 200s BC, the Greco-Bactrian kingdom extended their empire as far as the Seres, a term used to describe a region to the northwest of modern China. However, these early trade connections were relatively limited in the sense that though they were extremely active and wide-ranging, they never quite extended as far away as China. Yet this would change in the 100s BC when the ascendant Han dynasty expanded out into Central Asia. The new Han initiative would be spearheaded by the envoy Zhang Qian, who was dispatched to the borderlands in 138 BC, returning a decade later with detailed reports of sophisticated civilizations to the west. Further missions would be sent, and even armies. These eventually brought about the establishment of new relationships which fostered new trade routes that would flourish into the Silk Road. Across it would flow not just silk, but fruits and vegetables, livestock, grain, leather and hides, tools, religious objects, artwork, precious stones, and metals, in addition to things like language, culture, religious beliefs, philosophy, and science. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that's going to be ramping up, yet the true heights of the Silk Road.
Yeah, that deserves a video on its own, doing the Silk Road, man. Like how it was created and all that stuff and all the action on it.
Science. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that's going to be ramping up, yet the true heights of the Silk Road would not have been reached until the Middle Ages. At least for now, the Han court wished to strengthen this lucrative burgeoning network and sent yet more expeditions. Apparently in 100 BC, one envoy even made it so far as the fringes of what they call Anxi, which is basically the Parthian Empire. Here he was greeted with over 20,000 horsemen. The meeting apparently went quite well, as the exchange benefited both parties, and soon, some more delegations would be traded between the two. At the time, the Romans were just now expanding into the western borders of Parthia, and thus only heard whispers of what was happening to the east. Thus, the Chinese, similarly, would only have gotten a fleeting awareness of the far western power they came to know as Da Qin, or Great China. Within a century, though, Rome had expanded its sphere of influence significantly, bringing it ever so slightly closer to China. It's around this time that the historian Florus states that many envoys from across...
Man, look at that distance, though. Man, that is crazy. When I was thinking about distance, I was like, I knew they were far, but just seeing the map here, like, wow, like, it's like, you're gonna have a whole bunch of troops headed this way. Like, there's so much, like, in between here that they go to war over, like, it would just be travelers, and the travelers that come over here just be like, oh, just like kind of storytellers, they probably kind of think. So yeah, you're gonna know each other through like that, but like you don't know each other, and so they're not worried about each other. They're like opposite sides of the world. There's absolutely no worry. I mean, they got other problems to deal with, so like it's not even like a thought of probably not much. Each side didn't waste much thought on the other. Right?
Across the world. It's around this time that the historian Florus states that many envoys from across the world approached the Roman Emperor Augustus. Among them are said to have been the Seres. Again, that's a name often associated with people in northwestern China.
Okay.
However, though, when we cross-reference this specific mission from the Seres with Chinese records, we don't find any mention of this delegation. Therefore, it's most likely to have merely been a group of private merchants rather than official diplomats.
Right.
Consulting Chinese records once again, though, we do find evidence of the first official mission being sent. This event would take place in 97 AD, when an Eastern Han general in the Tarim Basin dispatched envoy Gan Ying to reach distant Daqin. He would not succeed in this effort, making it only so far as modern Iran. Yet the mission was not a complete failure, and he returned with lots of new information, mostly from Persian sources. His account tells of a vast empire with over 400 walled towns and dozens of dependent kingdoms stretching over several thousand li, with postal relays along the way. According to the Book of the Later Han, in 161 AD, it appears that Rome returned the favor by sending its own embassy. The text claims that they came by way of the south. However, most modern scholars again cast doubt on this being an official delegation, which instead would have most likely been merchants. Thus, we get an idea of how murky things are with this subject, and how it's hard to say definitively whether the Roman Empire and China really ever met. In the century which followed, the Han dynasty would fall into decline and retract its borders, until the empire, long united, again divided. This created a blackout of sorts when it came to communication with Rome as China turned inwards. It wouldn't be until the Tang dynasty of the 700s that China once again extended its reach far out to the west, but by this time, the Roman Empire had been reduced to the far smaller Byzantine Empire. Tang records do tell of several delegations arriving from Fulin, their name for the Byzantine...
I just want to say, yeah, before, I should have paused it earlier, like the water is what I kind of feared, would be if they got together, would be that. But like I said, it's most likely just merchants from each side. But I guess they could, Roman and Chinese citizens, obviously, probably have met, with the merchants. But yeah, like I said, governments of each one, no. I guess, it's just no point, right? It's just too far away.
But alas, we were again left in the dark when it comes to Western sources indicating whether these were government officials or private merchants. Thus, as the years go by, Roman-Chinese relations remain unconfirmed, and the window for official interaction simply passes. However, it did not prevent merchants from bustling back and forth with anecdotes, or prevent individuals from collecting and synthesizing the information already floating out there. This now brings us to the final portion of the video. What did they know about each other?
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, this is the part like I'm really interested in. I want to see like, did they get any kind of technology from the other side? You know, even if it's just through word of mouth or through a third party or whatnot. And did they include it into their daily lives, kind of thing, their whatever community, whatnot.
We'll begin from the Chinese perspective. Their view is best captured in the brief account of Wei that is quoted extensively in the video by Voices from the Past. In it, the Chinese historian writes about Rome's trade routes, territory, customs, and products. I've got an entire video dedicated to discussing the accuracy of the contents in detail, so check that out if you're interested. But as a recap, let's take a look at each of these sections briefly. Regarding trade routes, the historian fairly accurately relays the main routes as being an overland one through Parthia and a sea route through the Indian Ocean leading to Egypt. The descriptions are quite vague and present a hazy view of the West. For instance, the Nile is simply referred to as a river flowing out of the West, and the Mediterranean as another great sea. Some indication is given to the travel distances and duration involved, which are roughly on the mark. Regarding territory, the historian says that Rome has numerous minor kings and dependencies, with other territories divided into small countries. It's accurate in a broad sense, with a hint at the Roman provincial system, but when the author gets down to naming specific regions, it's clear that they are only really ever aware of Rome's far eastern holdings. Regarding customs, it's a lot more vague statements, like saying the
I'm surprised that they even know the lands and whatnot. China knows the lands and everything, and all that. So that's definitely with the little information they probably got. That's pretty impressive right there. Wow.
Eastern holdings. Regarding customs, it's a lot more vague statements, like saying the Romans wear Western clothes, write in Western language, play drums, and wave flags. There are some specifics that get interesting, like the mention of multi-storied buildings and the widespread use of courier stations. This is true enough, but again, it's something that was also widely present in the Roman East and Parthia. There's no real mention of great engineering feats like the roads, aqueducts, or more famous buildings such as the Colosseum. In terms of Roman government, the author talks of a 36-man group of leaders that meets regularly, and a king whose reign is not permanent and who can be replaced. These references appear to be to the Senate and the consuls, but are very outdated for the time and definitely do not come from someone who is up to speed with the management of the empire at the time. Regarding products, the historian gives us a long list of goods which come from Rome. The robustness of the details clearly shows that he spoke to a lot of merchants. We hear of
I'm sorry, I should pause it early once again. But yeah, just the fact that they know the government and kind of how it works. I mean, they didn't know, I guess, call it a king, but the fact that they know that system, how it works, that's pretty neat. I'm kind of curious, maybe I'm sure their system was a lot different, but I'm sure they didn't really take that little bit of information and include it into their own. But that's cool. Okay, here we go. What kind of products do they know about?
The robustness of the details clearly shows that he spoke to a lot of merchants. We hear of coins, precious metals, glass, fine linen, animal products, spices, and a ton more. Overall, it's quite indicative of the richness of trade. However, contained in the list are definitely goods traded by Rome, but not necessarily produced by Rome. For instance, the historian makes frequent mention of silk, despite this not being a domestic product for Rome at the time, at least not in any significant quantities. So overall, I'd say it's a quite fuzzy picture of Rome, but one which you can kind of discern if you squint just right. Again, I recommend you check out my other video for a deeper analysis. Now, let's turn to Rome.
Okay.
Well, if you thought China's information was bad, here come the Romans. Hold my beer. The main problem is that their ancient sources only really ever speak of the Seres. This is troublesome since the enigmatic name has been loosely used over the years to refer to a variety of people inhabiting roughly Central Asia. Pliny the Elder, for instance, speaks briefly of them in his book The Natural History. He states that their land lies far beyond the Scythian grasslands and their vast desert tracts. The Seres are said to be found to the northeast, just past a mountain chain. They enjoy a temperate climate with some sunny hills, rivers, and forests. Ammianus Marcellinus says much the same in that their sky is serene, the breeze gentle and delicious. As for what the people are like, Pliny says that though they resemble the savages of the land, they are of an inoffensive nature and prefer to trade with those who approach them. This passive nature is confirmed by Ammianus Marcellinus, who also states that they are a people who live quietly, avoiding all arms and battle. Apparently, they are famous for the wool to be found in their forests, which Pliny suggests must be thoroughly ransacked to supply the Roman women back at home. Beyond this, very little else is stated, besides the naming of some of the more distant and fierce tribes, such as the Cassiri, who feed on human flesh. The Byzantines, several centuries later, shed a little more light on the topic, but really don't mention anything about culture or government in the same way that the Chinese historians did when it came to Rome.
Wow.
So basically, all we're left with is this kind of vague mention of this Seres tribe, which in and of itself is not really representative at all of, mainland China and what was going on there. So still, a lot up in the air. That's not to say there weren't traders who knew more. I'm sure there were people in the Roman sphere who knew much more. It's just that we don't have records. And so, thus, we really don't have much to discuss on this front. But it's at least an exercise in looking at what could be seen at the edges of the Roman horizon. And in fact, ancient authors often acknowledge just how far away things were when it came to this country of silk, far, far to the east. Apparently, one Christian writer actually quotes some Indian philosophers who state that if a rope were stretched from Rome to China directly, it would pass through the center of the earth.
Wow.
I do hope that in the future, we're able to uncover more about this fascinating relationship between Rome and China, but for now, this is the extent of our own knowledge about other people's knowledge. I hope you enjoyed and definitely recommend you check out Voices from the Past.
Wow. There you go. So basically, China knew what was going on. All these outside, basically outside, empires and whatnot. And Rome, I guess, knew it. Oh, I mean, China didn't know a whole lot, but at least they kind of knew, like a small picture of what was going on. Apparently, Rome was totally in the dark. Like they didn't really have much to go off as at all. I mean, I just wonder if they just didn't care. Rome just didn't care, or maybe they're concerned with other things, or the information coming back to them wasn't much. Like maybe all the information from travelers going to China, stayed there and never came back, kind of thing, and and so they never brought that information back. But the people going to visit Rome, maybe they were able to leave a lot easier and come back and tell all the information to China. I don't know. Or China had better relations with the people in the middle, so they got more information about what was life like to Rome, and not in Rome's, ally didn't really have much friends in them between them, so they kind of get that information, if you know what I mean. So definitely interesting stuff. But wow, I guess I didn't really think about how far away they really are, because I was, I think of like, China it is today, giant, huge country, and I was thinking about just the edge right there, which would be like the Series, but like the Series wasn't really China at the time, and so like China was really way over on the East Coast, which just makes it even farther away. So I never really think about that aspect. But anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button below. Let me know your thoughts below on this video, and what you kind of thought beforehand, and what you think Abtan was kind of what you expected or whatnot. I'd kind of like to know that. But anyways, guys, hit that like and subscribe button. Catch you guys in future videos. And yeah, I am out of here. Peace, guys. Have a good day and good night.